it is 6 o'clock, so we'll call our meeting to order and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so starting with our council activity reports, I have a very brief report. After our last meeting, Tarek and I did attend the Fire Department Relief Association meeting. Heard about some of the things they've got going on over there, and we'll follow up with that more later. That's all I've got. Councilmember Richburg?
You had more than me. I had nothing.
Okay. Did you have Public Works tonight?
We did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did have that.
Councilwoman Brick?
We had Parks and Rec, and we toured Community Park and talked about improvements over there.
All right. Councilwoman Soini?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Councilmember Thielen?
Joint Trails Board at the Township Hall, and then we went and looked at a possibility of a trail under the Highway 23 bridge.
Okay. All right, on to our department heads reports. Department head reports. Chief Wagner?
Thank you. So just to give you an update on the hiring, last Wednesday, the 7th, we conducted 4 interviews. We had 6 total applications that came in the first round. 2 of the applications were not complete, so they were thrown out right away. They were contacted and told that we are continuing to accept applications in the event that we don't find an applicant out of this one, and they could certainly resubmit if they liked. Of those 4 applicants, the committee decided to put 3 of the applicants through to the next round of interviews, which will be next Wednesday. And then from there, we'll hopefully get the background started on next Thursday, assuming that the committee believes that there's an applicant that's a right fit for the community. Surplus property, I know we had approval to get rid of that, I guess, at the last meeting. It's been a little busy, so we haven't gotten that posted. We will be posting that hopefully this week for sale, or the items up for auction, and then we'll post on the Facebook page as well as the city's website when that's actually available and where people can go to bid on those. And then after this meeting, the police department and fire department will be getting together to have a little sit-down meeting. So just so you guys are aware.
Anybody have any questions for the chief? I've got one. I had a local business approach me with some concerns about maybe targeting the business or patrolling it. I'm just wondering if you could talk about whether the department has a policy or instruction on targeting local businesses.
Yes, so the department does not have a policy on it, nor are they ever instructed to target a business. As a matter of fact, my staff from day one when they're hired are specifically told that we will not target businesses, we will not sit and watch businesses. That is unethical and quite honestly goes against our values. It's our job to keep the community safe, but there are right ways to do it and there are wrong ways, and that's a wrong way. My staff knows that if they do and are caught doing that type of activity, that there will be potential disciplinary action for that. So we absolutely do not do that, never have, never will. The only times that you'll ever see us paying special attention to a business is if we have problems. So let's say we've got a business that's having repeated thefts. You're going to see one of the officers most likely driving through there on a more consistent basis as a deterrent. If we have a local business that's having issues with, say, customers, you may see them walk into that business, but it's because we're having issues that need to be dealt with. Other than that, we don't target any of the local businesses.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mergen?
Okay, thank you. First of all, the wellhead protection grant. If anybody does have any unused wells yet, if you want to get sealed, the grant is open until about September. The LED lighting project at the library is complete. That was taken care of last week. Over in the parks, remember we do have the concert at parks coming in. One we did have, were attended very well, so that is appreciated. water conservation, guess we just ask, residents at this time to, please water wisely, water in the morning and evening. Okay. Compost site obviously is open at this time, and again, there's a donation box out there for residents to help support that. Remember, we do not charge anything for it, so the donations there are needed. Airport, August 7th again is the fly-in, and I would also like to remind residents at this time of year, tree trimming does get to be an issue, so please follow up on, if you do have any trees, please go take care of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Merkin? I don't have any yet. Mr. Oliver, fine.
Okay, in addition to attending the Fire Relief Association with Sean and also the Painesville Joint Trail Board, as well as the Park and Tree Board, I also want to give you an update. If you remember last March, we issued a support letter for the Coronas Lake Association. They're applying for a grant from the Legislative Citizens Commission on Minnesota Resources, and the grant was for the Lake Coronas Water Quality and Restoration Action Plan. They heard back from them last week. I got an email Friday saying that their application was not selected, so they will not be getting a grant. They may try again in the upcoming season. And then also, I did have a call with the owner of the mobile home park, letting him know that, in addition to not relocating, or in the city will not be pursuing that as an angle, I let him know that we are interested in helping him improve the existing park, and any grants or support that we can participate in to give him support to help improve the park, that we will. That's it.
Any questions? Okay. Then on to our consent agenda. We have the minutes from the meetings listed on page 1 there, along with the vouchers listed on page 2, totaling $207,681.50. Anyone like to pull anything, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Soini to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion on that? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None. That carries. All right. Mr. Melhoff with the Relief Association.
Thank you. Brad Melhott, Treasurer of the Painesville Fire Department Relief Association. Christensen and Associates completed our audit again on time this year. It's been submitted to the state. We'll jump right into it. We'll go to page 9 of your agenda. General fund expenditures. Last year, you can see at the end of the year, was $32,993. Obviously, with COVID, we did not bring in as much in 2020, but we did spend more in 2020, and we're down to $27,938. Page 10, you'll notice fundraising, $15,000, and other of $4,080. That's a confusing line item. That is actually expenses brought in, that's ticket money brought in for the raffle we did in October. It comes in as an income because it's a deposit. Special fund on page 11, that's the retirement account. Ending balance $679,596. We'll go into more of that a little bit later. Page 12, contributions, state fire aid, that's the 2% money off of your insurance. That comes back to us. Supplement of state aid is a retirement. Firefighter, if he puts in 20 years, gets $1,000 from the state. We get that reimbursed. Firefighter dues, and then, of course, the municipal contribution of $5,000. Let's skip through a whole bunch of boring stuff and go to page 23. That's our progress. So you can see from 2016, we've been making money. So we are doing well. Important page, we get to the special fund investing on page 31. Total expenditures, we had a payout of $58,184, and that leaves us at $679,596. Page 43 just shows you that we are $127,227 overfunded as of December 31st. Remember last year, we were overfunded by quite a bit. We increased our benefit. We're still overfunded by quite a bit. We're going to be asking for an increase, just so you know. We're going to be asking that at the end of the year. If we're still doing really well, we're likely to be back to ask for a little more money for your blessing to increase that benefit amount.
Wrong. So, oh, you went the other way.
That is the highlight. Anybody have any questions or concerns or comments?
Not seeing any. Brad, thank you for volunteering to do that work and be the treasurer. I know from the meetings I've gone to with the Relief Association, it's not something that I would find easy to do. So thanks for taking that on.
Thank you for your time.
So with that, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the audit.
I'll make the motion to approve the Painesville Fire Relief Association 2020 audit financial statements.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Soini, seconded by Hertzberg, to approve the Painesville Fire Relief Association 2020 audit and financial statements. Any discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. All right, then just as a matter for scheduling, before I forget to say it again, we do have a special closed session scheduled at 6:15 this evening to discuss an offer on real property. We're not quite there yet, but that's coming up at that point. And then we have the public hearing on the Lewis Industries tax abatement at 6:30. So then moving on to page 47 of our agenda packet, the airport T-hanger lease. Ron, can you tell us about that?
Okay, thank you. Obviously, well, this is our last hangar that we have opened. If somebody comes in at this point, they would need to be put on a waiting list. Airport has been busy as of late. This week we also will have a crop duster flying out of here for probably the next several weeks. But as noted, this just become a pilot and was going to be purchasing a plane, and so the timing was good for him.
I guess the question I have is, I can't find the specific provision, but it requires that the tenant have a plane stored in there, right?
Correct.
And we're not worried because he's buying a plane?
No, I am sure he is, actually, he does have his plane. I think this week he was moving it down.
All right. Anyone have any questions for Ron? Otherwise, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the lease.
Make the motion to approve the airport T-hanger lease agreement between the city of Painesville and Ryan Frank.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Soini, seconded by Brick, to approve the T-hanger lease agreement between the city and Ryan Frank. Any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. In page 57, the Community Gardens Grant. Tarek, could you give us a heads up with what's going on here?
Yeah, a few months back, the community gardens, they approached us and they needed to apply for a grant, but of course they couldn't. They needed the city to apply on their behalf. They did receive a grant of $1,500 and we received the check for it already, so we will be paying that to them.
Basically, we just need to be the pass-through for the money, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions about that? All right, is there a motion?
I'll move to donate back the $1,500 to the community gardens from the grant they received through community giving.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Brick, seconded by Hertzberg, to donate back the $1,500 to the community gardens from the grant they received through community giving. Any further discussion on that? None, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None, that carries. All right, it's 6:15 according to my clock, so at this time, we will close our public session and go into a closed session to discuss an offer on real property. That's the property described as lots 1 and 2, Block 1, mini villa, parcel number 70.39169.0003. So I'd ask anybody not involved in that to please leave the room, and for Zoom, we will just go on mute.
Do you want me to hear myself in here or not?
I don't know. You can be. Ron, why don't you stick around?
Okay.
Right. All right, so we're going back into an open meeting. The council did discuss the offer. I think we're ready to make a motion, but we have some legal questions or comments that Bill can fill you in on.
So Brandon, I was just, you know, a lot of times there'd be like more of a purchase agreement kind of an offer that would outline in terms of closing, who's going to be responsible for what. And they were asking me, you know, what would be normal, and I told them that what we've done in the past when we've sold properties is if they want a purchase agreement, I've done the purchase agreement, but the parties have split the costs of it. I mean, we wouldn't have to do a purchase agreement, I think, if you guys are gonna go ahead anyway, and, you know, it's not like we're flooded with offers, so I think we could do a closing fairly quickly, but if you guys wanted title insurance, that would be up to you. And the other costs would just kind of be normal. I mean, the city would prepare and pay for the preparation of a deed.
Okay.
You guys would pay for the recording of the deed. They'd pay the deed tax.
Okay.
And you guys would split the closing cost to actually have a closing. And I mean, there's not gonna be much of a closing. It's gonna be pretty informal, so. There's not really much else for cost, but if you wanted to get title insurance, I mean, you could, and we could get information to whoever you want to get title insurance through about the description and get that done, you know, and that's up to you guys.
Given the nature of the property, I'm not sure that would be necessary or not. But,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, you could talk to Dwayne about that, you know, but those would be, I mean, I think the council's just looking to have an understanding of if you want it, that it would be your costs, and you guys could decide that. You don't have to decide that right this minute.
Very good.
Thank you. All right, then do we have a motion regarding the offer?
I'll make the motion that we accept the offer from D&D, well, what would you be, name be?
D&D storage.
D&D Storage of $34,500.
And Brandon, is D&D Storage Corporation LLC or just a partnership, or what is the
It's
nature?
just a partnership.
We have a motion by Soini. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Soini, seconded by Hertzberg, to accept the offer from D&D Partnership for the property located at lots 1 and 2, block 1, mini villa, parcel number 70.39169. Lot 3, for $34,500. Any further discussion on that? None? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Thank you, Brandon.
Excellent. Thank you all.
We will be in touch.
All right, thank you so much.
Brandon, could you just jot maybe a contact, like a phone number?
And it is 6:30, so we will move on to our public hearing regarding the Lewis Industries. Are we unmuted?
No.
Okay. So we'll move on to our public hearing regarding the Lewis Industries tax abatement. We do have Jessica here from Northland Securities. So I'll turn it over there first.
Or something.
Yeah,
We'll get it going. Okay.
that'll work. Thank you, Bill.
Yep.
Mayor, council, good evening. Nice to see you all again. Mayor, as you mentioned, we have a public hearing scheduled this evening to consider tax abatement assistance. As the council is aware, the city has received a request for abatement assistance to support an expansion project here in the city for Lewis Industries. We did talk at a work session last month related to some initial estimates that we had put together related to the estimated market value based on that expansion being done and the information that we received from the county. Based on those estimates, we were looking at around $128,000 that would be generated from just the expansion portion of the project. After looking at about a 10% holdback for the city to cover administrative expenses, that would leave about $115,000 in potential abatement that could be used to reimburse the developer for project costs. With any sort of abatement that is being supplied back to a business, a public hearing is required to take comment from interested community members. So again, that's what we're here to do tonight. With the feedback that we got at the work session last time, council wanted to leave the resolution rather flexible so that you could choose the amount to be provided and the term should council be supportive of the abatement in general, so we have done that. We did go through a few different scenarios in terms of providing that assistance, whether that's around 90% of the increment on an annual basis or phasing that out. So we gave you some options there. Let me know if you want to go through those again. Otherwise, I will open it up for questions for myself if you have any. Otherwise, we can open the public hearing for comment.
So I will just note for the public hearing, we don't appear to have anyone here. I have not received any comments on it. Jennifer, have you received anything? Okay.
You've all seen, I'm sure, the tax abatement policy that the council adopted some years ago, and just, you know, point out, Jennifer's highlighted it for you in your packet, but, you know, I had noticed that as I was working on a draft of a development agreement, that the abatement policy provides that tax abatement should last no longer than 5 years. I think, you know, since that's a policy the council adopted, you can certainly waive that if you intend to go outside the policy, but if we're going to do that, I would want to put in the abatement development agreement that you're knowingly choosing to waive that. And I think, you know, we could do that based on the size and scope of the project and, you know, other factors, but I just, you know, I think it's something just to keep in mind that you do have that development policy, and for future reference that's in there, and something just to keep in mind.
So am I understanding you correctly that if we do go outside the policy, we'd want to make some specific findings as to why that's justified?
I think you at least want to mention that you're doing it on purpose.
Lance, you're online. Do you have any additional comments that we ought to hear?
Not at this time.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Jessica or Lance?
Refresh my memory, how many years were we originally talking, 9?
Sure. So the way that we based the preliminary estimates was based on a 9-year term, and we looked at the phasing of that over time. So we could certainly do something in terms of less of a percentage received back if the city council wanted to do a smaller total abatement to the developer. Or you could go the entire 9 years, or you could shorten it up to 7 years and tell us kind of what you're looking for in terms of total dollars back to the developer. You have a lot of flexibility here. In terms of statutory ability, you can go up to 15 years of abatement. But we have set this up for a maximum of 9, just to mimic what a TIF district would look like.
Do we normally go 9 on our TIFs? Have we always?
I can speak to that. It's related to the type of district. So for housing districts, you've gone longer. I think they've been around 15 years or so. You can go up to 26. With economic development districts, you can go up to 9 years. So it really depends on the type of project.
Okay.
So I guess just to make sure everybody knows, at our working session, we had looked at 3 different proposals. One was 9 years at 100%. One was 9 years at a graduating down schedule. And then I think the council ultimately said we liked that sort of $80,000 end number, which if memory serves was 7 years at 100%. And the general consensus was that we'd be moving forward under that scheme. I don't know if anybody's changed their mind since then, but that's where my recollection is from our working session, so that Lance and Jessica know where we were at then.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, refresh our memory, but what does Lance feel about these scenarios? Is he okay with the 7 years at 80,000 or?
Lance, did you hear that question?
Yeah, I heard it. I'm
Thinking.
looking at the information I have here, and, you know, if that's the max the city's willing to offer, we take it. You know, again, we try to do the same 9-year scale as some of the TIFs we've done, that's within the 9-year scale, but if you're talking 7 years at 100%, I think we'd take that if that was what you were willing to offer.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments then from anyone during the public hearing? Okay, I'm seeing nothing, so I'll close the public hearing. We'll reopen our council meeting. And conveniently, next on our agenda, under old business A, is the tax abatement and decertification of TIF for Lewis Industries. So we just have our public hearing on that.
I'm a little torn. We normally do 9 years for TIF, for TIFs. So why do we want to shorten it up? I know we talked about it, but
Well, your policy is 5 years, remember?
Or we're kind of halfway there.
at 7. And I'm fine with 7 or 9. 7 is good. But then I don't want to make it difficult for them by making it only 80,000 when they're looking for the 115 either. I think it'd be easier to do 7 years than 115 because we're going to get it back sooner.
Don't think we can do that though, because then we would be exceeding the value of the taxes
Yep.
levied during
For a
each
year.
year.
Okay, all right. That's fine.
Yeah, so in order to get to that 115, we'd have to go 9 years at 100%. Alternatively, we could go 9 years, but reducing the amount in the later years, which keeps the dollar value the same, but lengthens the term of the abatement.
7 years gets them the money back sooner.
Right.
So it's a question for the council, that's a significant amount of money each year is off the books. When do we want that to start coming in?
It's 7 years, how much is it?
80 something.
89 or 80?
I think it was
88,
87,
103.
135, I remember.
88, yeah.
88,103. And it should be noted to not be married to those numbers because the value is going to change based on the estimate.
It's just an approximation.
Yep, so if you wanted to set that at 85 or 90 or something that's easy to put into the development agreement, I would suggest a round number just for record keeping for staff purposes. But yes, based on the scenario 3 that we discussed at the work session, we were at 88,103.
So if we did that, in a development agreement, we would say something like up to 90,000, 7 year.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I have that. Well, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-15 approving a tax abatement for certain property located in the city of Painesville for the term of 7 years in the amount of 90,000. With the, that we're quite outside of our agreement of 5 years.
Is that 7 years and or 90,000, whichever comes first, or?
That's typically how the agreement would be written.
Okay.
I suppose if you wanted to ensure that they were to get to that 90,000 number, you could certainly write the development agreement so that it's 8 years. So if they hit that 90,000 mark, then you're done. It gives them a longer term so that if there is any sort of delay in the project construction and being realized on the tax rolls, they'd have some additional time to get there. So if the number, what you want to provide back to the developer is $90,000, then you could certainly add a year or two to the development agreement just to allow for some flexibility.
Your motion, we don't have a second.
Well, I can amend it for the term of 8 years or 90,000.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-15 approving tax abatement for certain property located in the city of Painesville for the term of up to 8 years and or $90,000, whichever comes first. And we know that that is outside of our specified plan. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Hertzberg. All right, any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none, that carries.
Is that okay, Lance? Sounds good?
Yeah, sounds good. Just so you know, the big dirt moving should be starting in September. We're a little delayed, but that's the way it is.
Well, I hope it moves quickly.
Sounds good.
So, all right, anything else, let me know. Thank
All right,
you all.
yeah, thanks a
We
lot,
still
Lance.
have the motion to decertify this, the TIF if you wanted to
Yeah.
hang out, otherwise,
Oh,
you're,
okay, yep.
And I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2021-16, decertifying tax increment financing district number 1-14 of the city of Painesville.
Second.
okay, we have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Soini, to approve resolution 2021-16, decertifying tax increment financing district number 114 of the city of Painesville. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, none, that carries. All right, thanks Lance, now we are finished.
Have a good evening.
Take care, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks, Jessica.
Bye.
Thanks, all. Have a good meeting.
I can't believe you're not gonna stick around for more.
Of course, we only have one thing left.
Yeah, but that one thing's broken up into like 15 things.
You guys did it.
So Jennifer read my mind. I put together a bunch of gobbledygook and sent it to her about the emergency declaration, and she turned it into some English. Basically, we went through all of the actions that the council has taken over the last year and a half. And I went through each one related to COVID and just sort of put together what's still out there versus what might have been a one-time thing and whether or not we want to continue on with some of these things. The biggest one is whether or not we want to end our emergency declaration. Now that the state has terminated, do we want to follow suit with that? The biggest thing that I can see from us doing so is that it limits our ability to use Zoom and other technology during meetings. So Lance would have to come here next time rather than appearing remote. Or does it only apply to members of the council?
I think it's only members of the council, and honestly, I don't think keeping the emergency declaration in place matters. I think that ended July 1st for council members anyway.
Okay.
I think regardless of what we do as a city, I think that was taken away by the state's action.
We always, but we were, had council members that weren't at a meeting that came in on before.
Yeah, you have to do it from a public place, and you gotta, in advance, you gotta say where you're gonna be. But you can still do it, but it's just different, and, it was a little more relaxed because of the state's emergency declaration. It's still doable, but, you could, during COVID, you could do it from your home. You didn't have to go to a public place to do it.
So now if a council member wants to join a board meeting, not a council meeting on Zoom, is that still okay?
Same rules apply, though it's still a public meeting, so you have to declare in advance that you're gonna do it and where you're gonna be.
You hear that one, Paul?
I heard it.
All right.
That's gonna be the biggest pain in the neck for me is the 1 o'clock budget meetings. We'll make it work, but, okay,
Go to a public place.
yeah, just
You're in a
notice it in
public
advance.
place in your office. It's a public building.
Go to a coffee shop.
We'll start adding that to all of the agendas. If you want to come to the budget meeting, drive to Benson.
Yeah, that's not cool.
So, I have no objection to terminating the emergency declaration. I took a look at it. There was some comment about whether or not it was tied to the governor's order or the emergency powers. And I don't know that ours necessarily was, so I thought we should just clarify that it's terminated. So if there's a desire to do so, we'd be looking for a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to terminate the powers.
I'll second
Okay, so we have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Soini to terminate the emergency declaration. Any further discussion on that?
Could you put in there the COVID-19 declaration? So there's no confusion?
Okay, I don't think we have any other ones.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right,
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None. That carries. Okay. And there are a number of other things on here. I don't know if we want to go through each of them or just how we want to do it. I talked to Bill Ludwig about the liquor store hours. My comments are all in here, so you can all read, but I think it makes sense to let him adjust things given staffing levels at the moment.
As long as we have rid of the powers, we just, we need to go through each one.
Does everything just terminate with it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think everything else on the list is, I think no one else, I think all the other things, people are not objecting to the termination of those things. Bill's the only one that was asking that that power remain, and I think if you want him to have the power to adjust his hours as staff requires, you need to say that, because now that's gone if you got rid of the emergency declaration, so.
He can come back and ask us for it if we need to. The only other one that I thought might be important was the sunsetting of the PTO provisions, the additional PTO hours. Just setting a definite date that that would no longer be available. Do you have any thoughts on that, Jennifer? I don't know if that's ever really even been
Well,
utilized.
they're actually gonna expire on the second, at the end of this month, because it's the last, pay period of the month where we would accrue. So everybody that hasn't used their, hours over 325 will lose them as of July 25th.
Okay.
So yes, that's done, and all the staff know that.
Okay.
Do we still have some that are need?
There is, I think, 4 or 5 of us, and they range between a half hour and 12 hours.
Well, we still have a month to get it done.
Yes, so they will lose them.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
They will
Okay.
lose them on the 25th if they're not under the
Because
25.
we extended it twice, and I guess I was pretty clear I didn't want it extended any further.
And it's been on every staff memo that we sent out since January 1st, just about, so.
Okay. All right, well, I'm fine with the understanding that everything else on this list is just done now that the emergency declaration is fine. If Bill's fine with that, I'm good with it. And if anybody wants something to change, they can come ask us about it at our next meeting. So that is the conclusion of our business. There's some informational in here on the local Board of Appeal and Equalization training, along with the Environmental Office public hearing notice on our update. So with that, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
I forgot I met with Andy and Mike yesterday too.